devastating weaponry. Brutally powerful units. Truly epic battles. And, of course, massive explosions. This is beyond all reason, and I've been having a blast playing it. Join me for an introduction to the game, and to find out why I believe it's gone well beyond merely a TA clone. Say hello to your new best friend. This is the Commander. The Commander is unique. It cannot be constructed, and if you lose your Commander, you lose the game. Everything flows through this one unit. It produces all the Tier 1 buildings and defensive structures such as cannons and missile turrets. And while the Commander can't construct the more advanced Tier 2 and Tier 3 buildings, it does remain the strongest builder in terms of how quickly it can contribute to the construction of any given unit or structure. Given how incredibly important the Commander is, you'll be glad to learn that it has some extremely powerful weaponry and also defensive tools. The Commander's disintegrator gun is the strongest weapon in the game, and with the exception of other Commanders, it will one-shot anything it makes contact with. It's definitely not the most beefy unit, and it can be vulnerable to being killed quite quickly, so thankfully there's a cloaking mechanism where you can hide as long as you have the energy to do so. Speaking of energy, there are two resources in the game, metal and energy. In order to collect metal, you must build extractors on the patches of exposed metal that are dotted around the map, or if you have to be playing on a space station, the entire ground counts as metal. When it comes to generating energy, you have several options, some of which may be dictated by the weather conditions on a given map. If you have high winds, or you have strong tidal forces, then you can harness the power of the elements by building wind turbines or tidal generators on the coastline. If those are not options, then you can always build solar generators. As you progress to more advanced technologies, you can start to make dedicated fusion reactors and other powerful energy generating structures, but beware, because these do come with downsides. To help you balance the two resources, you can build structures which are dedicated to transmuting energy into metal, which is extremely valuable. If you find yourself pinned in on the map and you can't expand out to the various metal patches, then you can still power up quite effectively just by converting excess energy. All units and structures will cost some combination of metal and energy to produce, and the balance tends to make sense. If you have a giant naval army with various flagships, they're primarily made out of metal. Conversely, high-tech units, energy weapons and the like, they will primarily require energy to be produced, and indeed with some static defences, such as high-powered cannons, there'll be a huge energy requirement just to fire a single shot. So how do you turn these two resources into the units and buildings which you then construct? The construction process is channeled, and by that I mean you don't spend the energy and the metal up front, it's gradually used through the life of the construction process. This means that build times can vary dramatically based on the quantity and the quality of the construction units that you dedicate to a given job. And yes, that does mean you can put dozens and dozens of workers on one build job and try to rush it through. What this does also mean is that it's possible to commit to a construction job which is far beyond what you can afford. So I definitely say it's a constant battle, constant learning curve, trying to manage your income versus your outgoings in terms of metal and energy. It's a lot less straightforward than the typical, here's 100 minerals, builds a barracks, instantly deducted kind of model. The channeling factor makes it really tricky, but it also opens up so many interesting tactical options as well in terms of prioritizing different things and making them faster. So what kind of units can you actually produce? First of all, we have the bot factory, which creates mechanized infantry units. There's also an advanced version of the bot factory. These units tend to be very mobile, with lots of different mechanics, but they tend to struggle against anything stronger such as vehicles or naval units. In terms of vehicles, you have your typical selection of tanks, artillery, missile launchers, and also amphibious versions that can go underwater. Next up we have the hovercraft station, which, as the name suggests, produces units which hover just above the ground, so they have the added benefit of being able to cross water, but they can also pack a lot of firepower. We also have the aircraft plant, producing a combination of fighters, bombers, construction vehicles, and all kinds of flying gunships. And finally we have the naval shipyard, producing all kinds of units ranging from submarines to destroyers to battleships to aircraft carriers. And of course, no naval fleet would be complete without its flagship. In addition to the facilities that I've just mentioned, which can produce Tier 1 and Tier 2 units, there's also the experimental production facility, which can produce Tier 3, which contains all manner of walking death robots, giant tanks, flying gunships, really just absurdly powerful units that take extremely long time to build. The end result is a game where you can produce hundreds of different fighting units, all kinds of different playstyles and tactical approaches. In addition to military units, there's also a wide variety of static defense, which is heavily encouraged within the game, and I find it really interesting to play with. Now, it could be argued that everything I've just mentioned existed in Total Annihilation in 1999. Now, while that's true to some extent, there are also a lot of things that BAR is doing which were inconceivable in 1999. For example, we no longer have to contend with a unit cap. We can have 16 versus 16 team battles with tens of thousands of units fighting, and it runs well. This is all while simulating in real time projectiles, explosions, terrain deformation, and it can be watched from a number of different camera perspectives, strategic views, and with greatly enhanced spectator tools. This game has been in development for many years now, and I feel it's gone well beyond a point where you can say that it's just a clone of TA. It offers something more than Supreme Commander and Total Annihilation. It's its own unique gameplay experience at this point. The team is currently working towards a Steam release, and they've set out their Steam roadmap, outlining all the features that the game must, should, and they want it to include before they consider it ready for that release. It's all fairly sensible and encouraging stuff, ranging from internationalization in terms of translations, to gameplay features which they must implement, to middleware servers, mapping, tools for users to create content such as maps and campaigns, engine enhancements, and dedicated servers for hosting matches. I would already describe the game as extremely playable, like it's very good, it's quite polished, and it's held up well in a number of tournaments which have been hosted by the devs and the community, including one where they had a special guest in Chris Taylor, who is the man behind TA and Supreme Commander, and he gave the game his stamp of approval, so as far as I'm concerned, let the hype begin. I honestly believe that one of the main reasons that we don't all consider TA to be the greatest RTS of all time is because of limitations with the technology when it was released. The unit cap, the slowdown when armies are very large, it was almost a game before its time, and introduced so many features which became standardized in the genre. And it's been a long time since we had the successor, either a direct sequel or spiritual successor, and I really think that this could be the future Total Annihilation Supreme Commander style game. I think even right now the game could be considered great, and I'm really excited to see how it might look by the time they feel it's ready for Steam. And I can't actually believe I'm saying this, but this is just one of many exciting new RTS games on the horizon, and if you want to know more about some of those, check out the video in the link, which is a preview to all the upcoming RTS titles.